Welcome to another episode of the Spiritual Investor Podcast. Today, I have a guest for you that I really connected with. I was introduced to him through a friend, and wow, he's a coach, he's a Wall Street Journal bestselling author, he's been a TEDx speaker, and he serves as an advisor for a lot of people who are really operating at an elite level. And so I wanted to bring him on because I felt like me, it's kind of a frequency thing, right? It's like he is operating at a frequency, which then resonates with that aspect of people's frequencies who are wanting to get there. And, he said a couple things that were just like so good. And I'll even read them because I want to make sure I quote him exactly. He said, "I want you to have the biggest desire ever." He's speaking to just whoever. "I want you to have the biggest desire ever for the sake of doing the right thing." And he goes into this a little bit with like, we kind of chastise ourselves sometimes for our desire, but actually the desire is just that's that beginning place. And he also, on his podcast, which is called the CLS Experience, he has a couple of episodes that talk about this as well. And he goes into also talking about, in this interview, why your comfort zone is what he would call the dead center. And he said, and he actually printed this on a shirt. He said, if it's in you, it's required of you. And so I really love his take on, it's kind of a no bullshit approach on, let's cut down to the chase and let's address the fact that people think that they're living their truths, but they're really not. They're really just walking around kind of in an illusion and maybe feeling like it's the truth. So, I hope you enjoy this episode. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot myself in this episode, and I hope you enjoy meeting Craig as well. If you want to follow him on Instagram, it's Craig Siegel _ CLS. Yeah, he's a great guy. So enjoy. Welcome to another episode of the Spiritual Investor Podcast. I don't have many guests on, as you guys know, but when I do, it is definitely someone that I believe in every cell of my body is going to inspire, move you, take you forward in a way. Nothing ever changes. The time that you spend here is always meant to kind of move you forward and honor that time and help you expand into your own greater consciousness. So today I have Craig Siegel, who is one of the most inspiring people that I've come across. And I know that he has so much to share in terms of his life, his wisdom, the things that he's experienced, and the way that he helps people. And so, Craig, thank you for being on and being part of the spiritual investor world.
Super pumped to be here. Love the connection. Let's have some fun. Let's go deep.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go deep. All right. So I am going to be the microphone for what I would say would be the questions from some of the audience here. I've been doing this this podcast for at least for 5 years, the business for 8 years. And so I've worked with a lot of people. So I kind of do feel a little bit in the rhythm with what they would be asking. Not that it's going to be totally on point, but maybe even collectively, I'll take in the energy right now. Okay, you guys, think of your questions, right? I would say, Craig, for someone who is, and this audience is more on the advanced end of the spiritual consciousness spectrum. They are kind of over the whole, I'm just going to read the money manifestation books, or like, I'm just going to make a vision board or whatever. They've graduated, and now they're really at a point where they're looking at themselves and they're going, okay, I know this is an inner game, so no one needs to be convinced of that. The thing is, like, how do they bring that strong inner game that they have into their business? Because for a lot of them, there's a disconnect with they're out here and they're giving their gifts in the world, but yet they're not yet seeing their business, and there are aspects of their business that they don't even really like. Like they might like to help people, but they might not like the sales and marketing side of their business or something like that. You probably know what I'm talking about.
Hmm. Yeah. First of all, so much to unpack there. I think, when something isn't working, I don't look at the result first. I look at the identity behind it. Kabbalistically, the wisdom of Kabbalah is something I'm a student in. I study it and I love it and happy to talk about that more. But really, it explains the laws of the universe and cause and effect, and really helps elevate your consciousness so you can operate life more clearly. Kabbalistically, I see everything as seed and fruit.
Mm,
Most people try to fix the fruit. I go back to the seed. So I
mm,
ask, where am I out of alignment? What belief am I unconsciously operating from? What would the highest version of me do here without fear? And then I move from that place, even especially if it's uncomfortable. So you mentioned inner game. Couldn't be more aligned with you on that phrase.
mm. Can you talk a little bit more about when you say especially uncomfortable?
The only way to really grow and transform is if we're stretched out of our comfort zone. There's a quote I used to say often, a little bit less now, it's a little polarizing, and that is that your comfort zone is a death sentence. Because I believe one of the reasons why our soul is here is to grow, expand, stretch, and create. And if it's not doing that, if maybe it's the opposite, if it's contracting, if you're not getting uncomfortable, then you're not growing. I mean, it's a simple analogy, but think about going to the gym, right? If you lift no weight or 1 or 2 pounds, I mean, how uncomfortable are you really? And then as a result, are you really going to grow your muscles? And probably
Mm,
not. But
mm,
if you go and you lift a little bit heavier weight, even if you struggle, especially if you struggle, what's really happening there? It's tearing it down and then it's growing and stretching. And life is no different. So if you want to expand and grow in this world, whether it's business, spirituality, relationships, or everything in between, you have to be willing to get uncomfortable.
mm-hmm. Well, I think that sometimes people would feel like when they're uncomfortable, is that an indicator that they're doing something wrong? Because, like, I know you do marathons, right?
Mhm.
You're a marathon runner. And so I can imagine that there's points in the race where you would feel uncomfortable. However, you know that that's just going to happen and that you're going to keep running and you're going to cross the finish line at whatever, what is it, mile 26 or whatever. So it's like, and so you keep going, right? When people hit a point in business where they're uncomfortable, we could just say business as an example, then what's the difference in being uncomfortable and being like, holy shit, am I just not hitting this on the head?
First of all, I started running marathons a few years back when I was a little bit of a dark night of the soul, right bottom moment. And the idea was I really wanted to make myself uncomfortable and stretch
Mm,
myself out of my comfort zone because I believe that would expand my capacity in other areas of life. And that's
mm,
exactly what happened. That's why I fell in love with it. And that's why to this day I still run them, run 9 marathons total, and have another one coming up in November for that simple philosophy that you just beautifully articulated. For anyone that's out there, if you're not strung out, like if you don't have any challenges over the course of the day, I
yeah.
wouldn't consider that a productive day. Someone
Mm,
listening right now is like, what are you talking about? Let me ask you this. What do you think is a more opportunistic, powerful day for you? The day in which everything just seems to go according to plan, or the day in which you're constantly facing different challenges that you have to navigate? So the listeners pause it, take a second and really think about it. The answer is the days that you have all these challenges that you have to navigate because they create another gear, an extra level that you have to grow to overcome them. And we need challenges to grow. With no friction,
mm,
there can be no light. So if you're not experiencing any type of sensation of being uncomfortable, you're missing the point.
I love this. I love this. Okay, so to take that one step further, Um, and what I feel from you, which is, I absolutely love this, by the way, because I talk a lot about this both here and in the mastermind, which is the energy of certainty. And I love it when I come across someone who carries the energy of certainty. And I actually got a message this morning from someone talking about how they're able to elevate and embody a little bit more just from even listening, right? Because certainty is an energy, so that's beyond the words, right? And so for it seems like for you, I'm just gonna, go out on a limb here, that when you say that you go through your day and you have challenges, it seems like to me that you are also not getting taken down the river by those, or seeing yourself inside of those challenges because you have a level of certainty. So what would you say for someone who's like, yeah, I don't mind all the challenges all day, but I'm exhausted and I'm emotionally depleted and I'm crying and I'm da da da. What about that person?
Well, that person probably misaligned because I was that person on Wall Street towards the end of my career. In other words, at the end of a long day, I wasn't just tired, I was depleted because
Yeah.
I was a gladiator in the wrong arena. And I had become very misaligned to that world, nothing against it. I just began to outgrow it and I wanted to do something a little bit different, more meaningful with my life. And because I stayed in there a little bit longer than I probably should have, I wasn't just uncomfortable, I was out of alignment. I was burnt out. I was miserable, right? So if you're experiencing those type of feelings, that's amazing feedback that maybe you're on the wrong path. And what an opportunity to elevate your level of consciousness and just take a moment to reassess. Now,
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned me over the course of the day. I'm being faced with different challenges. I'm playing bigger, of course. And by the way, I'm having a human experience. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not flawless. There are moments when I get frustrated, right? Or for a moment, I take a left down victim consciousness lane. Then I have to catch myself because I have the tools and come back and then
Mm-hmm.
exercise certainty, remove the doubt. Absolutely. That's part of the human experience is to have these types of tools and press forward. So if you're feeling super burnt out, that's much different than a good net positive uncomfortable, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
have to be able to distinguish the difference. For instance, you have a soulmate and you're in a relationship. I believe that your soulmate is here to trigger you in a proactive way to help you grow and evolve to become an even better version of yourself. That's a good thing. But if you're in a totally toxic, misaligned, maybe narcissistic relationship, well, that's a different feeling. And you got to be able to distinguish the difference.
Mm. You do, you're right. You do have to be able to distinguish the difference. How do you distinguish the difference when you're in, um, some people say in your trauma? I don't even know. I don't even really like this language anymore because I feel like it's really disempowering that we spend so much of our energy focused on our trauma and all that. I really, for myself, I look at it now as just a flip of a coin. I'm either in a dependency or I am not needing something. And so, but I do know when I'm in a dependency, like someone has said something that I'm like, oh God, right? Like I am not a clear decision maker in comparison to who I would be in any shape or form, right? To what I do is I try and almost step away. What do you have to say about that in relation to kind of what we're talking about here and then your life?
What do you mean exactly? Like being able to navigate when something's misaligned? You said you don't like the word trauma. Tell me exactly what you mean.
Well, you know how like someone says, "Well, this is what you're going to need to do because this is the way I need it to be." And you love this person, and you want to be with you. You want to accommodate this person, and you want to make the relationship work, but you have to give up what you want to a certain degree,
Okay,
right?
got it. Understood. So, by no means should you ever have to shrink yourself to accommodate someone else. Now, in a relationship, which by the way, I got married a year and a half ago, relationships are not easy. Two different souls, even if it's a soulmate, but there is sacrifice, there's give and take in a relationship, right? There's a team effort.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's say, for instance, you don't like to go shopping, but your wife loves it and she likes when you come.
Mm-hmm.
So, once a month or whatever, she's like, I really want you to come with me. We're away. Okay, I go and I actually want to be there and I'm patient, right? That makes sense to me. But like having to change who you are because you don't want to like ruffle any feathers because this person's very defensive and shut down and might get mad at you if you just open your mouth and have a normal conversation with them. Well, that's compromising your soul. That's really playing small. So again, going back to discernment, having a level of awareness and realizing what is a give and take and what is sacrifice, and what is someone asking me to do that's going to compromise my own light. We never want to be there.
Mm. I love the word that you use, discernment. Can you talk a little bit more about what that really means to you? It's such a beautiful word.
I think of consciousness, how that's everything, and or awareness, however you want to use the word, but really being able to elevate your ability to see, to be unplugged from the matrix, if you will, to kind of really understand what's going on here. And look, we're talking about consciousness and awareness here. Elevating your awareness doesn't create change, but it does absolutely create choices, right? Because
So
clearly, and you have more choices. So this is a whole game of consciousness, and constantly flexing the muscle of elevating it is one of the primary things that you could do each and every day.
hmm how can you tell, or can you tell, if someone is in a zone? Because I think we all fall in and out of this, but in a zone where they're about to make a decision that's unconscious,
Unconscious. What do you mean by that?
not conscious.
Like what do you mean? Like operating from ego, not really aware? Like, can you tell me a little bit what you mean by that?
Well, to me, I would say we're typically not conscious if we're stuck in what the mind is future forecasting or in the past. However, sometimes it's difficult to tell that. And also, we came here to live in the 3D world, so we came here to live in the contrast, right?
Hmm.
Contrast, I think contrast is really a great thing. It's when contrast and emotions meet that it becomes suffering, right? So then what happens is you get a sort of that mix of it, and then someone goes out there and they make what we would consider an unconscious decision. But I know you help so many people, and I know that you have a way of sort of like, I feel like you're very good at cutting through the fat, cutting through the chase with people. So if someone were to look at themselves and say, God, how can I tell which side of the fence I'm on? What would you
By the
say?
way, first of all, thank you for saying that. I received that. Most people are living unconsciously.
Mm,
Plugged into the media. You remember that show, The Walking Dead? Most people are walking around like that, just
yeah.
plugged in like a robot, like check in, check out, go home, do it again. Most people aren't doing this type of work to really elevate their level of consciousness. For instance, you know, many people I know that like they're at a job that they don't like, right? And I ask them why. Well, I have to pay the bills, or this is what I went to school for. They come up with so many different truths with a lowercase t, right?
Mm,
Because there's a couple of truths with an uppercase T. That's that me and you right now, we're simply having an experience, right? And we're both existing. Can't deny that. Lowercase t is everything else. You think you're too old. You think it's a saturated market. You think no other career would hire you. None of that stuff is actually the truth. But we make it true for us because we're living unconsciously. So the question is, what would it take to start elevating your level of awareness to realize that you have so many more choices than you might have thought?
mm. What does that take? Like, how can someone sort of get themselves into that next room?
Well, you tell me. Like, if someone listening that's right now that feels like they're in a dead end in a relationship that doesn't align with them, or a career that like no longer aligns with their trajectory, or they're just living someone else's life, like what is something somebody can do to start realizing that there are more choices?
Well, I can only use myself as an example, and I would say with myself, what I do is I go back to what am I doing? Because I believe that we create everything is created by us. And so I actually, the moment that I think that it's outside of me, it's something to do with my circumstance, then I have no power. And so
Mm.
for me, I have to bring it back in order to look at it like it's not in my jurisdiction until I do. And sometimes that's challenging because we can feel like something is done to us, or if this person will just do this, then we'll have this, or if I got the five perfect clients, then my business would do this. And like there's such this conjunctive language that goes around it. And so for
That was so
myself,
beautiful, by the
way.
way. Sorry to interject, but that was so beautiful, right? So I would pause this podcast right now and I would take those notes, right? So anytime you're outsourcing anything for your power, that thing now controls you. Take back the power and realize if you want to fix your business, your life, anything external, guess what you should do first? Figure out what the lesson is internally, and then you change the external. Everyone's always looking for the next hack, algorithm, or this and that. And you beautifully articulate it. Whenever you find yourself doing that, take the power back. Stop outsourcing it. And that's the beginning of the next level for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it will take a minute too. Like there is no time. So we'll explain it within time. But when that coming back for me occurs, um, I'm not necessarily in that next moment in possibility. However, I'm in agreement with the universe that it's okay that I don't have an answer, because I do know what I do know is that I work for freedom, and that I have gained freedom by coming back to myself because I've disentangled, I've taken my power back, and then I pause. And then I've done my job because I only work for freedom. And then what happens is that greater possibility will come in. Sometimes I don't recognize it. Sometimes it's like, and actually I'm glad when I don't half the time, because it's like, oh, well, this is something new. If I recognized it, would probably be something I knew before anyways. And then there's this calibration of, okay, that's new. That's not exactly what I wanted it to be, but holy shit, that actually solves it. And whenever I start to see a win-win situation, it's a win for them, it's a win for me, it's a win for everyone. I know it is divinely designed, and I move towards it. And that's a little bit of, if I don't really have a process, but I've never even articulated this, to be honest. But if
Well,
I
that
had
was
to say
beautiful.
that,
Now you do have a process.
yeah, no, I do have a process. I
And
have looked at my process.
give me the name of this episode, Divinely Designed. That was beautiful. And I'm so happy I asked you, because from putting you on the spot, you had a channel. And the way that you just articulated, you just made it very practical for anybody listening to integrate right after this episode.
Well, I will say that is the magic of you and the co-creation, because that is one of the things that, like, sometimes is challenging for me, is to bring it into something practical and 3D for people. So I really appreciate this. This is a really, really advanced level conversation, because it's the merging of both worlds. And that's kind of what people are looking for themselves, right? How do we walk that? How do we bridge that gap between the two worlds? We pull the energy down. But wait, we don't want to just talk about energy of money. We're tired of that. Like, give me something real to do, right? Which I think is what you help people with.
Hmm. Yeah, well
Yeah.
said. The spiritual investor, that's the name of the podcast. I love that. What does that mean exactly to you?
I worked on a trading floor. So I worked in finance for almost 12 years and traded oil and natural gas and electricity. And so I had the finance side. And then someone joined the trading floor who, he was from India, and he and I became fast friends. And he taught me just the foundation of, like, the whole Hindu religion. Spent about 5 years just really inundating me. They were two separate worlds for me. And then what I noticed is I started building wealth, and I was able to retire young. And I'm like, but wait, I didn't do money like traditional finance. I actually created businesses that had a giving back and had a spiritual aspect and had a win-win situation. And I was like, well, and someone asked me to teach them money. And I said, I don't do that. And then finally I was like, okay, I'll teach you money. But then when I did, I had to have the agreement with myself. I'm going to do it my way. And that was spiritual, and that was using investing. And I was just like, okay, well, it was very much chosen. I don't even really remember coming up with the name, to be honest.
It's so cool. And if you're open to it, I'd love to just ask you.
Yeah.
I'm curious from your perspective, what's the biggest misconception people have about money when they start approaching it from a spiritual lens?
Mm. That all they need to do is be in flow with money,
Mm.
and that's it, right? I think that I think their tolerance is very low when it comes to being in this state of what I would call waiting, which is lack of energy. But it feels like a high vibe state, because I'm in flow with money. I know it's coming. I can feel it's coming. And because I feel good about it, and because I'm doing good things in the world, it's like this tolerance for the state of waiting, when no, if your source then there is no time. If you're source, then it's instant for you until you agree to wait. That giving back or that sharing and that opening, that's really a state of allowing. And the dollars hitting your bank account is seamless. If
Mm,
not, there's something to look at.
beautiful. Well said.
Thank you for this. Thank you for this. Um, how do you feel like, because, I'm fascinated by you and with the business that you do. And I know you've done like a lot of speaking and all of that. Like now that we're kind of where we are now in the conversation, like what do you feel like sort of resonates within your business, or maybe has been resonated in your life that has sort of helped you get to where you are? Because I think people look at you and they're like, I want to be there.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I've done over the last few years, which has helped me tremendously in business, in impact, in purpose, in relationships, has really tripled down on my spiritual studies.
Really? Tell me more about that.
Just really understanding, first of all, for me, that looks like the wisdom of Kabbalah. And I study, I work on myself like a lunatic, like it's my
Yeah.
job. Essentially,
Yeah.
it is, right? Because the more
Yeah.
that I'm downloading and studying, the more opportunity everyone around me have. I believe that, right? So especially for someone that's of influence, I don't mean like an influencer, but someone that's of influence, you have to be working 10 times as hard as your clients or students. You have to keep elevating so you can elevate everybody around you. And so just understanding that everything is internal, understanding the different lessons, the different challenges. Look, we learn in Kabbalah that nothing is random. Every challenge comes with information if we're open to seeing it. And every obstacle is not to us, but more so for the benefit and elevation of our soul.
Mm.
Aim of elevating your soul. Right. And so just continuously work on myself, elevating my level of consciousness and awareness. And by the way, on our podcast, we've had on billionaires and celebrities and very quote unquote successful people. And I used to think that some of those people were the most powerful. And this
Mm.
is when I was a little bit more unenlightened, I guess you could say. And now what I've realized is the most powerful people are the spiritual giants. The one that really understand this, they know how to work with themselves, they know how to disconnect from the ego, operate from their soul. They can create a billion like that. They just have bigger dreams than just things, right? So making your spiritual work, whatever that looks like for you, somehow doing the work on your soul and elevating yourself and your level of awareness, that's the best, that's one of the most important things that you can do while you're here in this human experience. Absolutely.
Wow. I love the way you said that. I love the energy that was carried with it. I feel like I just all in one moment, like I also understood why Karen connected us too. Because when you were talking about that, like I just manage my energy is all I do. And whatever I'm doing is for the benefit of this that I'm out, the work that I'm out here to do, right? And sometimes I look at my life and I'm like, okay, well, yes, I created this life and I created like the time and the space and all of this. And then um, I look at someone who, because we hear this a lot where people are like, I don't have time, I don't have the blah, 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 and blah, blah. And it's like, I try and put my finger on, and I don't think I do probably a very, very good job at it, kind of explaining that it doesn't matter about time, that what matters is the management of your energy, because all the power is in the moment. And quantifiably, if you're bringing more power to the moment, which I can see with you, Craig, I can see that because you are calibrating your system all the time, you're calibrating your world to have this spiritual study all the time, then what happens is you step forward in a more powerful way. Your level of presence is tremendous anyways. I noticed that in the very beginning. So it's like to be able to do that. And so that is actually operating outside of time. But first you have to stop believing that you don't have time in order to operate outside of time to be able to even access that power.
That's a mic drop right there, by the way.
Hmm.
Unbelievable. I love the stuff that you're sharing today, right? So, and you mentioned time. How many people think that they just don't have enough time to go find their purpose, right? They think they have a job, they're stuck. They don't have the time to reassess. So
Right.
they stay in this constant loop and pattern. and feel unfulfilled and sometimes miserable. But there, in that world, in the spiritual, there is no concept of time. It's man-made, right? It's a construct. So when you're operating from that, when you're connected to that, that's how you can create quantum leaps in your life. It's why I always like incremental progress. I say this very respectfully, like yawn. I'm bored by that. Like I'm about the quantum leaps, not shortcuts,
Yes.
cheating, but we should be able to experience quantum leaps and breakthroughs in our life every single day.
Oh my God, you're so right. Yes, absolutely. It's like, I don't, it's, unless it's the accelerated path or the shortcut, I'm really not interested in it. And I know like sometimes that could even be translated as being impatient, but it's not. It's not impatient energy. It is my standard is so high. It's just like one of the things that I teach in the mastermind is in the very beginning is I drop the past meditate like basically a meditation that turns into a practice of completely dropping the past because if you don't have a past, God, we're so powerful without a past. And when we need that information, it comes back in. Whatever we need to know, I believe is embodied within us. And so I'm going to step in the room and know what to do without having to make myself remember what to do, right?
Totally.
And I don't know. I love what you're talking about here. And I feel so happy actually knowing that you're out there helping people that you are at your level, at their level. You're literally putting incredible, I want to say like warriors out into the world because I already can see all of that. Like I can already see all that you do, even just having just this interaction with you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I received that. Look, it's our look. I believe this. Our last live event, I put this on some of the swag that we gave out, and it resonated. If it's in you, it's required of you. If it's in you,
Oh, that's really good.
and get this, all of us have something in us, right? The creator, whatever it is that you believe and subscribe to, we weren't here to play small. We're here to express our soul in some capacity in the world, right? And unless you're doing that or in the pursuit of it, you're never going to be really fulfilled. Just not. I know from experience, right? So you have a gift, you have a soul that's unique to you, and it's one of our responsibilities while we're here is to express it in the world in some capacity. And if
Hmm.
you're not having any time, I'm not saying that to dedicate your whole life to just that, but if you're not tapping into it in some area, you're going to be contracting and you're going to feel extremely unfulfilled and borderline depressed, I would imagine.
Yes. It's quite interesting though because I think a lot of people wonder what that is in them.
Like,
You
what's
know?
the gift?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people spend time thinking about what's my thing. I don't have a thing, right? I'm listening to
Yeah.
them. They found their thing, but I don't know what mine is. So, if that's true, how willing would you be to try some new things? To take a
Mm.
moment to write down some of the things that you absolutely love? Like, what is there not enough time in the day for you to do or talk about? It's got to be something, right? And then a different list. Well, what are the things that you actually do that you're good at? Like, what are some of your skills? Everybody's got some skills. And then with those two lists, is there any overlap? Is there anything that's like, oh, I'm good at that and I love that. Maybe I should try that. Well, that's how you could start, right? So I believe that clarity follows action, not the other way around. So how
Mm.
cool would you be to try a couple different things
Mhm.
and then just get some feedback from the universe? Your soul will tell you, oh, I like this. So that's not for me, right? So you got to get off your butt and be willing to try new things. But also, there's an old expression, it's kind of beautiful. When you pray, you speak to God, but when you meditate or you're still, God speaks to you, right? So
Mm.
also be willing
So
to get quiet, right? Be a channel, ask questions, probe the light, draw the light from greater, and you'll get downloads, 100%.
that is stunning. That is stunning. Will you share with us just even some spiritual kind of things that you are kind of coming through for you right now that you feel like are sort of weaving their way through your life?
I think of this idea, first of all, that wealth to me, I know that's a strong word, is alignment, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's when who you are, what you do, and what you receive are all in harmony. Because you can make a lot of money and still feel empty. In fact, statistically speaking, most people that make a lot of money are empty. But when you're aligned, money becomes a byproduct, not the goal. And that's the difference. I'll go a step deeper. For me, when I connect, that looks like creator. Someone else might be the universe, quantum, God, geez, whatever your thing is, all good. But I see my relationship creator as a partnership. So my job is to bring the desire, the discipline, and the vessel, and then allow something greater than me to meet me there.
Mm, that is so key, what you said about being the vessel, like a conduit. We had someone who just she could feel the energy coming in. She feels like she went through kind of an awakening at one point, and she was just for about 2.5 weeks just floating, right? Just floating through the city and just could see everything. And then that energy at some point, um, it would come back in sporadically, but what would happen is she would push it away and push it away. And what came up for me as I was thinking that it's because she was in the illusion that she was a receiver instead of a conduit. Because that energy, like you say, you're a vessel, it's flowing through us. And I always look like, or look at this, when I look at my life, like I don't feel like any of this is mine. Like I feel like that's why I said, like, my job is like I manage my energy and I work for freedom. Freedom being, am I more free in the moment? If I do this, am I more free in that next moment, right? But I don't actually feel like it's mine. I feel in service of being the frequency that I could reach other people for. I don't know how that sort of lands in your life, how that shapes around your life.
I agree with you that none of this is mine, right? So this isn't. It's all about a game of how can I be the best channel, right?
Yeah.
In a way, like giving is huge, and I talk about often tithing and getting rid of 10%. Some people call it giving. Anytime you think stuff is yours, you're basically blocking the light,
Yeah.
right? Because none of anything is ours. We've been a channel for it, right? And the more we can act from pure intent, from be that channel, for be that vessel, then the more that can come through us and that we can express in this world and have, so to speak, right? So people often complain when they don't have it, and they don't have enough money, or they don't have the purpose, or they're just complaining in general. So they're rejecting more stuff from coming from them, right? But
Mhm.
also gratitude and appreciation, right? People look at that as like this catchy thing that's in all the ancient texts. Gratitude is a technology, right? The more you're appreciating
Oh, so
everything
good.
you have, the more it comes to
Mm,
you, right? So
that's so good.
it's a game of being the best channel that you can be. And to that degree, the more stuff you'll end up manifesting as the byproduct of being that channel. And by the way, it doesn't matter how much stuff you have, it'll never fulfill you because that's not why we're here. I'm not saying don't like them, don't like the Chanel bag, the Rolex. Stuff's cool, absolutely. Just that's never the thing, it's never the goal or the mission. It's a byproduct. But you're here for something so much bigger to experience that divine connection and to be the channel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How do you, just like talking about your business for a minute, like how do you work with people? Because I would assume that like they would benefit tremendously from being in your energy for an extended period of time, I'm guessing.
Thank you for saying that. So many different ways. I mean, we have our podcast, we have the book, the Reinvention Formula. We have a whole path to take people. So we have a community, which is called Level One, our membership, where once a week, 3 Wednesdays a month, I come in like this and I teach on different topics. Sometimes we also bring in guest speakers. That's one to many people that just want to get plugged in and just be in the energy. Then, for those that have a little bit more of a desire, want to go deeper, we have something like a level two, which is 6 women, 6 men, small, intimate, 6 month mastermind, where we're really focusing on what your thing is, what your gift is, how to scale
Mhm.
that and bring it into the world in a big way and unapologetically make more money. Then we have level three, which is people who graduate that. We also do one on one, very selective, obviously, We do the
Mm-hmm.
live events. So there's many, many different ways in which I could support and help people. For me, though, I'll say this: for anyone that's in business, oftentimes if you're speaking to somebody, you always think like the other person's qualifying you. Like, do I want to hire this coach? I want to work with them. I'm
Mm-hmm.
always qualifying everybody else. I
Mm.
want to make sure that they have the vessel. They're serious. They really want to change the world in a big way. Doesn't mean become Elon Musk and go to Mars. But do you have a big capacity to really do a lot of great stuff?
Mm.
Right? Because if not, it's fine. No problem. You can hop in our community, get plugged into the energy, receive it, no problem. But for those that really have a big vessel, that really want to quantum leap, to do some great stuff in the world, those are the people that excite me most when it comes to working on a more intimate basis.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Because, it's an exponential factor to that, isn't it?
What do you mean by that?
Well, because the energy that you are bringing to that is unlimited. And
Mm,
the energy that someone at that level is willing to allow to move through them is unlimited. Because what I find is that it really, when it comes to doing any type of work like this or out in the world, it's really comes down to what are you willing to allow? Because the more I allow, the less of me I actually get to be.
mm,
And someone who's playing at a high level, who would work with you at a high level, I would think would be willing to drop a lot of who they are. I wouldn't think that they would go in arguing for their limitations, right?
mm.
Because they wouldn't want to waste it. It's probably not the right word, but it feels like wasted energy, right? And I even think that that's probably what we're moving towards. Especially have AI and you have all that, which is going to take we've got this mundane level of stuff that's being taken over. It's like, are we really doing this, and we're really looking for how we line up with powerful people who we see ourselves in, because we're allowing that.
Hmm. Beautiful. Yeah.
I really feel like, I don't know what you think about this, but I feel like business is almost going in that direction. Like, I mean, I'm doing my first private event. I'm flying to California, and just doing it next week. So it's like I'm very new to that, to the
Very
in
good.
person
What
thing.
is
But
what's a private event?
I'm having it in San Luis Obispo because I went to Cal Poly. I went to college there, and so it's a special place. And I wanted to have the first one kind of like in a special place.
Cool.
Um, but it is really, really having people within the 3 days be able to define what that level of freedom is for them, from a financial level and from a life design level, and do what I did basically, which is not like I did. I mean, it's their life, but to do what I did in terms of, I took my freedom back. I was like, I'm not going to let anything else define it for me, but I do know there's a point of ease within me, that I wasn't looking for a certain amount when I left corporate. I was looking for, what's that point of ease. For me, it was, I wanted to cover my cost of living, my monthly cost of living, and I wanted to finish my long-term retirement. Well, I didn't ask anybody about that because I didn't need to ask anybody about that. That was my point of ease. And then from there, I asked questions. What are you doing? What are you doing? And then I started buying real estate, and I had the fourth Airbnb in San Diego because no one had them. And I was like, is it even going to be a thing? Kind of, what it did is it allowed me that freedom, allowed me to come up with my own design. And since I have done that, I've always been able to sort of see things ahead. I don't think it's an accident that I've been able to sort of like be the first one in the door on things. And so it's orienting people, because I think wealth is positioning. It's like somebody comes and knocks on your door. Oprah can knock on your door. If you don't have the book, and if you're just sitting there, then opportunity's gone. Like, are you positioned for it, right? And so how can we position people, especially who have like expanded into this greater consciousness, position them to be able to um, allow that abundance in? That's what
Beautiful.
I'm really interested in.
Yeah. Beautiful. Like you have to do stuff too, and then step aside and let the light in, right? So
Yes.
I love this quote where even God said to Moses at some point, enough praying, get moving, right? So you want to
Yeah.
create the vessel and then draw the light, but you still have to show up with maximum effort. Make no mistake about it, but just be unattached to the outcome. And
Yes.
that's where you really partner with the light.
You're right. You're right. I love how you said that. I really like how you have a way of like, I'm not just going to say cutting to the chase with things because it's not really that, but it feels like that. It feels very powerful when people just cut to the chase and they're like, okay, I get it, right? You've got 5 kids at home and you've got bills to pay and you've got blah blah blah. However, that's not your option. That's not all your options. If you really look at it, you have 55 other options that you can choose if you're willing to cut to the chase, right? But if you're not, if you're willing to continue to put energy on trying to find a solution from the starting place of I can't do it, it feels like to me you take people out of that starting place, of I can't do it.
You know what? I Fair enough, and that's why we have our community and our membership and stuff like that. But I don't love to work with people that don't believe they can do it. I want
Mm.
to work with people that are so audacious. They think so crazy beyond logic
Mm.
that they can do amazing things. Those are the type of souls that I find really attractive, that I really want to go deep with and partner up with.
And you know what? That is really great for people to hear you say that, not only from, okay, you've defined it, but also for people to see that you are choosing them.
Mhm. Yeah. And also, I don't want to have to convince someone about
Yeah.
what's possible for them, right? Yes,
Yes.
I can teach, I can help, I can inspire, I can empower you. Absolutely. But if you're like, you're so like, I don't know, closed off to endless possibilities, listen to this podcast. Go into the community or read a book, absolutely. But start opening your mind. And then once you do that and you start to consider what else might be possible, now we can talk because that really excites me. Then I can be rocket fuel for that. But I don't want to
Yes.
have to convince someone that there is endless opportunity and possibility out there if they don't believe it. I want people unapologetically to desire it all. I want to make a mistake about it, no mistake. Because people think that like if you start to really expand your desire and play bigger, that's not spiritual. Says who? I
Right.
want you to have the biggest desire ever for the sake of doing the right thing. Right? So if you just want to make $1 billion to have money for the sake of what? To receive for you alone doesn't help the world at all. And probably because that you're not going to receive it. But you want to make $1 billion so you could do this, and that with the money that's actually going to elevate the planet. Now that's amazing. There's a big difference, right? So it's the same intent, but totally different consciousness. So I
Yes.
want people to unapologetically desire it all: the money,
Mhm.
the relationships, the connection, the spirituality, the fulfillment, the freedom. Absolutely all of it you should be desiring.
Mm. That is so good. So good. I hope that you guys listening really, really listen to that. I would actually maybe like back up a little bit on that and re listen to that again, as that is tremendous. And that is a way to just, if you live into the self expression of that, you don't have to worry about money blocks or anything limited because you feel and you know who you are at that point. And the money blocks, all that shit doesn't even like, it doesn't apply to you anymore, you know?
Mhm.
Amazing. Well, thank you. Oh my God, this has just been like the most incredible conversation. Like delightful is just really what comes to me. So, thank you for. I've learned so much from you in this. I've learned so much.
Well, like you said earlier, it's a co-creation. So thank you for
It
asking
is.
some awesome questions, for your beautiful resonance and energy and presence.
Yeah,
And this was amazing, and I can't wait to do some more things with you.
I know. Me too. I know. Only the beginning. All right. Okay, so I will see all of you guys on the next episode.